Okay, so my name is Brenda, and I study agricultural sciences and natural resource management at Earth University. I'm also a menstrual hygiene management instructor, meaning that I train girls on how to use um, menstrual cups and reusable pads. I work with an organization called Iron Kids of the World, and we are presently working with a project. We are presently working with a project called Cameroon. I hope everyone can get me. Now my volume is good enough. So we're going to begin by looking at the female external genital organs, because I know many girls never take time to look at what they have in between their legs. So it's very important that we begin with this as a first step. We have here the labia majora, the labia minora, the hymen that is a thin tissue that covers the vagina. We have the urethra opening, the anus. It's very important for me to emphasize here that a woman has three openings, because many girls that if I use a menstrual cup, how am I going to urinate? How am I going to defecate? So inserted in the vagina cavity here, why a girl can continue to urinate through her vagina, or if she wishes to the bathroom, she can always go to defecate. And another thing I would like to talk about is the hymen, because many people think girls are born with completely closed hymen. Everyone's born with completely closed hymen, but that's wrong, because some girls are born with open hymen, some girls are born with perforated hymens, and a virgin is not a girl that just has a hymen, because if that was the case, girls that had no hymen could not be virgins. A virgin is a girl that has never had sex. There are cases of girls that they have a closed hymen, but because they've had sex through other parts of their body, maybe they had anal sex or oral sex, they can't be considered virgins, although they have their hymens, but they are no more virgins. It's very important for me to emphasize this. Let's talk a little bit about sanitary pads and tampons. The main components, okay, the main components of sanitary pads are cottons, plastic, petrochemicals, and fragrance. Why don't I advise girls to use sanitary pads? The first is the environmental impact that it has on, like each year, the total women population use about 100,000 tons of sanitary pads and tampons, and that's a lot. And this ends up being buried underground, or they end up being burned up, or we end up dumping them in the river, and that causes a lot of environmental contamination. The second problem with the sanitary pads that girls use is the cost. To spend 600 every day for those who are in Cameroon, not every day, sorry, every month, is something that is challenging for many girls, because in a year you can spend about 72,000, and that's a lot. And UNESCO says that 1 in 10 girls miss school during their period because they can't afford these parts. And this has been one of the main promoters of gender inequality, because you cannot expect a guy that goes to school every day to perform same as a girl that has to miss class at least 4 times each month. Another thing are the infections related with the sanitary pads. Some girls have allergy when they use this, some girls have some girls have infections, and there's an illness called the toxic shock syndrome, usually caused when girls use tampons, because what happens is that they insert the tampon in the vagina, and some girls, maybe for some reason they don't have the opportunity to take a bath after 12 hours, they leave the tampon there for more than 12 hours, so it causes a lot of bacteria to accumulate, and this can cause this disease called the toxic shock syndrome. Let's now talk about some alternatives for menstrual hygiene management. The first alternative, and as Madame Doreen has been talking about, that's a very good alternative, that the reusable pads. This can last for 2 to 4 years depending on the brand. There's some that can even last for 5 to 10 years, and they are very good. They don't have chemicals. I usually advise girls to have 4 or more pads, because you need to wash them. You need to always be sure that you have pads left in the wardrobe just in case anything happens. And we also have this part called the sati part that are made out of banana fibers. I think it's really interesting because in Cameroon, we are one of the main exporters of banana in Africa, and I think it'd be really good if we can find a way to be able to make this type of parts. This part, it just lasts like just takes 6 months to decompose in the soil, meaning that the environmental impact is very, very low. Environmental contamination is very low. Another alternative, they are the menstrual cups. And so far, this is the most sustainable alternative for menstrual hygiene management. We're going to talk a lot about the menstrual cup during my presentation. Okay, what's a menstrual cup? A menstrual cup is a bell-shaped sanitary device inserted in the vaginal cavity during menstruation, and usually lasts there for 8 to 12 hours. And what it does is that it collects blood, while the other sanitary pads and the tampons, they absorb blood. So with the menstrual cup, what makes it to be recycled is that you just collect blood, you dump it in the sink, you rinse it, and you insert it again. That's why you can use a menstrual cup for 10 years, and you just need just 1 cup during that period of time. So these are all the things we need to know about the menstrual cup. I'm going to take each and every point detailed. But in summary, we have choose the right size, know the different type of folds, wash your hands before and after usage, positions used to insert the menstrual cup, and how to remove the menstrual cup sterilization, and do not believe in myths without researching about them. That's very important. Many girls will be like, I don't want to use a menstrual cup because I heard this and this. It's very important that you always try to do research before trying to accept any menstrual product. So let's look at the first factor that talks about which size, how do I determine the size of the menstrual cup? Basically, there are 4 important factors. That's the age, if you have had children through your vagina, quantity of flow, and the cervix height. The 3 main factors, when you're considering the 3 main factors, a girl less than 17 that has not had children through her vagina, her size is the XS, that's the smallest size. Girls between 17 and 30 years that they have not had children through their vagina and they have high flows or medium flows, their size is the medium size, as the SA. And girls that are, or ladies that are above 30, or a lady that's even below 30 but has given birth through her vagina, the best size for her will be the L size, as the largest size. Okay, now the fourth factor there is the cervix height. This factor is very important because sometimes a girl can be 17 but she has a high cervix, meaning that she might need come with a line showing 7.5 milliliters, others come with a line showing 20 milliliters. So if you're someone who is very curious, you can actually check and see how many, like, what's the quantity of blood I menstruated today. And I also want you to note here that menstrual cup, they have these holes. I hope, let me try to see. I hope everyone can see. These are the holes that they have. These holes just help them to break vacuum easily, like when you're pinching it to remove it. But it's very important when washing the menstrual cup, you try to open these holes and allow water to pass through them, because sometimes blood comes and hangs in the hole. So the next thing we're going to look at is how to sterilize the menstrual cup. The ideal way to sterilize a menstrual cup is to boil it in hot water for 5 minutes or more. But usually girls that are in dormitory schools, for example, me, I'm not permitted to cook at school, so I need to look for other alternatives to keep my menstrual cup. So other alternatives are, you can use a silicone container. So you boil water and you put in the silicone container, you put the cup inside. You can also use a rubber container, but when using a rubber container, you should not use hot water, because hot water can cause depending on the type of plastic it is, it can cause the plastic to melt. So I usually recommend girls that when they're using plastic containers like these ones, they should use vinegar. So you put water in the container, you put 2 spoons of vinegar, you keep the cup in it for 5 minutes or more. And after you dump the water, you rinse the cup because the cup will be smelling vinegar. And the last one is a glass container. With a glass container, there's no problem. You can actually use hot water. Now let's look at some advantages of the menstrual cup. The first advantage I'm going to tell is about the fact that it lasts for 10 years, something incredible. Can you imagine you spending 10 years without having to buy any sanitary pads? And it's something wonderful, especially now during the pandemics. We are in quarantine and we can't go out of school, so we don't have access to supermarkets. And many girls have come to me that they want menstrual cup because I actually sell menstrual cup on campus. And it's something wonderful to have a menstrual cup there, and when you're menstruating, you don't have to check, how am I going to do, what am I going to buy? You just have it at your disposal and you can use at that moment. They are very efficient. So the menstrual cups that we use, usually it can contain about 22 to 30 milliliters of blood, while tampons and the sanitary pad, they can contain just 10 milliliters of blood. So you can imagine it's 3 times more efficient than tampons. Another one is a good investment because usually menstrual cups they cost between $25 to $40. Well, I know in Cameroon it can be difficult to purchase. First, it's not even available there. But if you get the menstrual cup, you'll be fine for the next 10 years. So another one is it promotes sorry, I made a mistake here. What I mean is it helps to solve gender inequality. Yeah, it promotes gender equality. Yeah, I'm right. So what I mean is, imagine that you give this cup to a girl that is in a rural community that don't have access to pad. You enable her to go to school, no matter if she's going through her period or not. And that's something incredible, giving her equal chances to perform good at school as a guy who's not menstruating. The next one is eco-friendly. So if you're having a menstrual cup,